My name is Rick Wilmer. I'll give you an overview of the company, what I see as our high-level mission, why we exist, and then hand it over to a bunch of our brilliant technical folks to tell you more about what we do in detail. So this is our agenda. I'll go through our mission, and then we'll go through some of the proactive analysis and troubleshooting we do with what we call our Mojo Aware technology, and that'll be Kostu Fonse, our from the office of our CTO. Brian White, our VP of Products, will talk about why cloud Wi-Fi is ready for the large campus. Then we'll go through the security of the cloud with Hemant Chaskar, our CSO, our Chief Security Officer. Praveen, our founder and CTO, the grandfather of this brilliant venture, will go through what we're doing with massively scalable Wi-Fi networks and also cover what we're doing with our 3 radio APs. By the way, you all have certificates in front of you for a couple of 3 radio APs. You can either collect those on the way out if you feel like dragging them home in your suitcase, or let us know and we'll just ship them to you. We'll get them out of here later today or tomorrow, and they'll be there in a day or two. All right? And then it'll be just a wrap up at that point. So let me go through our mission. I always like to think about why we exist as a company. And at Mojo, what we're trying to do here at the most fundamental level is increase the pace of innovation and networking by breaking the old proprietary business model that has existed in our industry for many, many decades. And we'll talk in some detail about how we're trying to do that. What we deliver is wireless as an infrastructure, essentially as a service. We view this as the next generation of enterprise Wi-Fi beyond the what I call the old controller architectures. Our target markets, although we sell into other vertical markets, our roadmap and our marketing messaging is really driven towards these markets, which include large service providers. We have a number of large service provider accounts where we're in massive production deployments, tens of thousands of APs, along with K through 12, higher education, large corporate enterprise, a building like this, and then federal. As of the fall of this year, we'll be the first cloud Wi-Fi vendor certified for federal through FIPS common criteria, and we'll have our cloud certified through FedRAMP as of the fall of this year.
You kind of emphasized carpeted enterprise there. Is there something you're staying away from in, say, industrial enterprise or somewhere else?
Yeah, we're not driving the roadmap or the marketing message toward manufacturing, heavy industry, those kinds of deployments at the moment. We do have outdoor APs. We have some deployments in environments like that.
Yep.
But it's not a target vertical in terms of what's driving our feature delivery through our roadmap, nor our marketing messaging.
So what would you consider a feature roadmap there? I mean, for the most part, I do a lot of mining, underground mining, and we slap regular APs and NEMA enclosures if we really are that concerned about it. So, I mean, I would never come into Mojo and go like, oh, this is not a solution for us. I'm curious, do you find a real limitation there, or?
No, not necessarily. It's really what, with the limited resources we have as a, quote, startup, we're going to target a very prescribed set of verticals based on a set of criteria that we used to decide which verticals to go after. And it doesn't mean we won't sell into other verticals given the opportunity to do so. Okay, what we won't do is go to a mining trade show and market Mojo and spend our marketing dollars there. Nor if there's a special feature required for the mining industry, that may not become a priority on our roadmap. That's the way we think about this. So for instance, we sell a lot into retail. We've got a lot of retail customers. It's very likely you've all been connected to Mojo Wi-Fi recently in some retail environment, either a fast food restaurant or something like that. But it isn't what drives our roadmap, nor do we show up at retail marketing shows. Okay? All right, we have about 2,000 customers, well over 300,000 Wi-Fi access points shipped to date. We view our competition as the Cisco Meraki combination, the HPE Aruba combination, and the Aris Ruckus combination, soon to be consummated. We have about 320 people in the company. The majority of those are in India. That's where our engineering team resides, along with our DevOps or Cloud Ops team and our customer support organization. Here at corporate in Mountain View, we have about 35 people, which is mostly administrative and marketing, and then the rest of the folks are in the field, largely in sales roles. And then we're a venture-funded company. Granite and Walden International have been in the company since the very beginning, back in 2003. Presidio and Trident both came in relatively early, and then most recently Morgan Stanley put money into the company. So what we're doing is really emulating what's some of the trends that have happened in the data center. And what we saw happen there is a revolt against the traditional business models, and we're trying to bring that same benefit to the edge of the network. And what we saw happen and what we're seeing happening with our customer base is folks that are frustrated being forced to buy proprietary hardware and software solutions from a single vendor. We also see a lot of customers getting frustrated with paying very high prices for enterprise-grade APs when they're starting to recognize that most, if not all, of the innovation is being concentrated into the software and the chipset that lives within those APs. And we will propose that the Wi-Fi industry needs to open up and provide more customers with more flexibility, more velocity, and a lot of cost savings by adopting some of the principles that we've seen happening in the data center. So the way I explain this is I talk about what makes this future possible, some of these data center business models. And there's three things that we see being required. One is the technical challenges can only be addressed with the cloud. And we'll talk about why in a lot of detail as we go through some of the further presentations here and what we do in the cloud that you can't do in a limited modular or a limited device like a controller with a fixed set of storage and compute available. The required pace of innovation that's being demanded by the market can only happen if everything is defined by software, and that is Mojo. Everything we do is defined by software, and we'll demonstrate that for you today. And lastly, the only way the economic challenges can be addressed is based on open hardware standards, and we're a big proponent of open hardware standards. And that's the piece that I'm going to talk about here in this opening talk before we get into more technical discussions with some of our engineering folks. So the economic challenges can only be met based on open hardware standards. Let me tell you what that means to us. This is my analogy on what old school networking, fully integrated hardware and software solutions look like. There's vendor A's solution, there's vendor B's solution, and then we've got the highly innovative vendor C, okay? All at 70% margins. A lot of networking vendors have become very wealthy over the years selling it at those kinds of margins. When we break it down, I correlate the chassis, which includes the silicon, the power supply, the printed circuit boards, to the egg crate or the egg box, okay? It's outsourced manufacturing, and in today's world, very often outsourced design, okay? At least in networking near the edge, the hardware engineer is becoming a rarer and rarer commodity. And then within the egg container, you've got the egg, and I correlate the yolk to the silicon. That's the microprocessor, in our case, the Wi-Fi chipset that lives within the APs. And then the egg white is the software that makes the entire system work. So what we saw happen in the data center is this realization. The chip designer or supplier is creating value in the silicon, be it a microprocessor, a network processor, a Wi-Fi chipset, whatever the case may be. That's sold to an Asian manufacturer of a chassis or a platform. Value to the end customer is high. A lot of functionality is delivered to the end customer in the silicon. Then you've got the chassis itself, which is built by the Asian manufacturer, sold to a networking vendor, and the value to the end customer is low. Okay, that's the egg box. Okay, you get eggs at home, that's adding no value. That goes in the garbage can after you've extracted the value in the eggs themselves. And then the software is obviously created by a networking vendor like Mojo, and clearly the value to the customer there is high. So the world is changing, where integrated solutions from a single vendor are no longer being acceptable to the market. And the reason why is, number one, vendors are taking too much margin, networking vendors are taking too much margin for things for which they created no value, like the silicon or a chassis or a piece of hardware that they didn't design, that they just outsourced the design and manufacturing. Customers are figuring this out, and they're not going to pay 70% for things that you yourself did not create value through design. They also, a proprietary system, a fully integrated system, doesn't support the pace of innovation that the market demands. Open source software, open APIs, open systems that allow a community of people to collaborate and innovate together, not constrained to a single vendor and their limited engineering resources, is what we're pushing in the market, what we believe in, and what our system supports. And you'll see some demonstrations of this today. So, what we dream of is an open standards ecosystem within the world of Wi-Fi. It's very similar to what Open Compute has done with servers. We want to see this happen at the edge of the network, where if our dream came true, at some point in the future, you would be able to go buy a enterprise-grade access point designed by one of the leading ODMs in the world that are typically based in Taiwan and manufactured by one of those ODMs. You could then go to the firmware store and download whatever code you wanted onto that AP and have that thing function and connect to the management system of your choice. And if you wanted to take an AP that had a load of our software and convert it to some other vendor's software so it could be managed by another vendor's system, we would welcome that. I would welcome any of our competitors to give me a call, and we would gladly make all of our access points that you'll see today available to any of those to port their code and have them manageable through their management system. And likewise, we'd be happy to collaborate with any one of our competitors and allow their APs to be managed by our cloud system. We're absolutely open to this. We believe this is what's best for the market. This is what's best for the customers. This gives customers a lot of diversity of choice. It theoretically means that you may be able to upgrade your management system without ripping and replacing your APs. It also means that it's going to drive the hardware part of the AP down to commodity pricing.
Realistically, though, what do you think the chances are that's going to happen?
Well, 4 or 5 years ago, no one thought it would happen in servers, and now it has. No one thought there'd be a white label switch in a data center, and now there is. So it seems to be happening. You know, companies like Cumulus, all the momentum with Open Compute is pushing this, and it's becoming real in the data center. So having it move to the edge of the network, I do believe it's realistic. And as Praveen will talk about, we'll show you that technically there's no reason this can't happen. There's no roadblocks today other than cooperation amongst the Wi-Fi vendors that would prevent this from happening. There's no technical reasons that would block this. So the future, as we...
This one slide back.
Sure.
OCP?
Yes. It's the Open Compute Project.
Okay.
Okay, so the future that we dream of, open standards for hardware, can run any software stack, available for multiple vendors, so customers have multi-sourcing capabilities for assurance of supply or best possible cost, commodity pricing, and a sales channel that's direct to customer without software. Okay? This is known as disaggregation. Again, it happens in the data center today where you can buy a server or a switch with no operating system, then you load the operating system of your choice and you've got a functioning system.
So I got a question.
Sure.
If we're all using the same hardware, what is your special sauce then? Is it the firmware, everything? I mean, what's going to differentiate you from you providing me Wi-Fi and somebody else providing me Wi-Fi if it's the same silicon, same hardware? You're just telling me your software is better than their software,
Exactly.
or vice versa?
Correct. It's exactly right. And that's basically what you're going to hear about for the rest of the afternoon, is what's so special about our software and what runs in our cloud.
Well, and I think you're putting a lot of burden or a lot of expectation on the customers being able to do this directly. Do you see that specialty reside in a lot of end user organizations? Where's the space for the traditional partner?
Got it. So that's a great question, right? This is disaggregation, buying hardware and software from two different places. If I build out this slide, I'll answer the question after I get it built out. But again, the software can be loaded into any hardware platform. It's open standards or API based. You'll see some remarkable things that can be done with our APIs today. In fact, it constantly surprises us what some of our customers do unbeknownst to us with our APIs. It's supported by a community of developers, and the sales channel is direct to customer without hardware. So this is disaggregation, buying hardware and software from two separate places and then taking the responsibility to put it together. that is very difficult for the vast majority of the market to handle. Really, the only guys that can handle this today are the hyperscale data center guys like Amazon, Google, Facebook, you know the crew. What we've done with our business model is we've disguised disaggregation from the end customer, but we still provide the price benefit. So all of our access points today are sold at cost. Mojo makes no margin on any access point, all right? And what we do is we don't even take title to the access points and sell them through to our end customers any longer. We have a partner that does that. So that partner buys the access points that we design. We don't design, we design the firmware, we qualify the access point, we certify it to work with the Mojo Cloud. We have a supply chain partner that purchases those access points and puts them into inventory. An order from an end customer for Mojo Cloud Service plus Mojo access points will come to a VAR, just like they always have. That order goes to a distributor, just the way it always has. Then that distributor splits the PO. The PO for the hardware goes to our supply chain partner, and the PO for the cloud service comes to Mojo. So we've already moved to a disaggregated business model so we can pass through access points at cost to our end customers, but we're not taking the hit from a financial perspective ourselves by selling 0% margin hardware, okay? So we've disguised disaggregation from the mass market, from our target verticals by setting this supply chain up this way.
But all it sounds like is you just took the hardware profit and gave it to a partner instead of yourself.
We gave it to the market, okay? The channel partners aren't making any more margin than they have historically. Now, and neither are the distributors.
But it's not zero margin on the hardware.
Absolutely.
Someone's still making profit on the.
Of course.
It's just not you.
Correct. Our supply chain partner makes a little bit, and then the channel, the distributors and the VARs make a little bit, same as they've always made. So what has been given back to the market is what we as a Wi-Fi vendor historically would have made as margin. And that's been, in our industry, about 70%, okay? So typical networking, Wi-Fi networking companies, a 65 to 70% gross margin business. We took all that margin that we used to make historically that we would make if we maintained a traditional business model and literally passed that through to the end customer.
And support model?
We provide all the support, just like we always have. We provide a lifetime warranty on the access point with no RMA required. They're so inexpensive now that we don't even want them returned if they fail. It's not even worth the effort to get them back. We may ask them back for failure analysis, but from a commercial perspective, we don't have you pay a premium for an advanced replacement service or anything like that. You call our support function, claim that you have an access point that's dead. If we agree, you'll have a new one shipped out to you the next day. Okay, and all that is included with our cloud service. There's no additional fee for support. There's no additional fee for the lifetime warranty. There's no additional fee for any features or future software updates or upgrades. It's all included in the cloud service. Lee?
Do you see this expanding out to a Mojo switch or a Mojo security appliance at any time?
Yes. There's no question that our cloud platform, today, the way I say it, it happens to manage access points, but there's no reason this cloud platform can't manage other network connected elements, and that's definitely coming up in our future.
And is that the direction you're going to take with switching and firewalls as well? Is
Absolutely.
Kind of open compute?
Absolutely. This is the core philosophy for our company from a business model standpoint.
I have one more for you. I'm sorry, Sam. What's to compel the competitors to get on board?
Big customers.
Yeah.
That's what'll make it happen. We're working with an open compute now. We're very active. We're trying to push this forward. Again, Praveen will talk about how we're doing this with some of the bootloader technology that's been contributed to open compute. But until you've got a big, huge customer that starts to get vocal within open compute and get the other vendors in line that this is the way the future has to be, it's going to be slow going.
What sort of platforms are you looking at when you take this sort of agnostic hardware platform? You've got other folks in the market who are already doing this with the Linksys class of APs in the market, right? At what point do you draw a line and say, you know what, we're not gonna support that WRT54G that you've got sitting on your shelf? Who draws that line, and then how do you support somebody else's hardware if that fails? If it's a bring your own hardware solution.
Correct. So let me answer both questions. So when going back to our go-to-market strategy, we know what kind of access point hardware platforms are required by our target verticals. And Brian White, our VP of products, who we'll talk in a while, is the one who writes the PRDs for those hardware platforms that we then give to the ODMs. They bid, we select one, qualify it. So we're writing specs for APs that meet the requirements of large corporate enterprise, higher ed, K through 12, et cetera. Okay? Now, if we realized an open standards model, for instance, if one of our competitors took us up on our challenge and walked in with some APs that we would like to offer to the market as Mojo manageable that we don't have in our portfolio today, we would put the lifetime warranty on those APs. So if we sold one of those and it failed, we just replace it with a Mojo AP or a like AP that we had from that competitor that we're collaborating with.
On that topic, we have a Twitter question from Wireless Nerd. Drew asks, what current hardware other than what Mojo offers can the software run on today? Has anybody else adopted it yet?
We've done some proof of concept. I think those APs were on display down in the lunchroom.
Okay.
With the ONIE bootloader technology, we've been able to load our code onto APs that weren't Mojo designed APs and have those APs boot, connect to our cloud, and become manageable. So we've got technical feasibility proven, but because we don't have cooperation from any of our competitors, we're not interoperating with any of our competitors yet.
So the ones downstairs really can't be named or talked about?
One is an Edge Core AP. Praveen, I forgot what the other one was.
Light-on
AP.
WNC and HCore.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Who would you foresee managing that firmware store? Because
that's a great question.
Security comes to mind right now with the person sitting next to me, #blame Jake. When it's all about security here, how do I know that firmware that I'm going to load on is safe, secure,
That's a
has
great
no backdoors, anything like that?
There's other questions about FCC and regulatory approval.
Yeah.
Right. If you're matching up AP firmware with AP hardware willy-nilly, are you broadcasting on channels you shouldn't be on? There's a lot of stuff that needs to get sorted out. And we want to do this through the Open Compute project. That's a big forum with a lot of people that care, a lot of powerful companies that are influential in Wi-Fi. So we're going to work within that community to try and solve all these problems.
So would you foresee maybe you guys being more of an ambassador to start a different organization that would oversee that?
Not quite. Actually, to answer your question, there is an initiative inside OCP called Secure Boot, where you want to start all the way from the hardware and build a chain of trust through the secondary bootloaders, coming all the way through U-boot and into the NOS image that we are building. So this problem you're stating is being discussed within OCP.
Okay.
That how do I make sure that, when I'm flashing my software, that I can trust the hardware to begin with. So there is a forum already, there's a group which is meeting, and there are proposals, one from Cumulus right now. And our goal is to adapt that proposal for Wi-Fi.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, last slide. This is just our growth rate. We don't disclose financials. We're a privately held company, but we are growing really fast. I talked about shipping 300,000 APs lifetime to date. Just the last quarter alone, that was well over 40,000 just in the last quarter. So you can see the growth rate that we're on. The market seems to be embracing the story, and we're seeing tremendous success out there with some very large customers. So,
Is this volume revenue?
yeah, this is AP unit count.
Quantity, okay,
Yeah,
counts of AP.
exactly.
So do you think this growth is driven by the kind of open hardware concept story? Because you're selling your APs on your software, and then that's where the growth is saying here. I'm not entirely convinced that the growth is driven by the open hardware concept.
It's not. Today, the open hardware philosophy is more, the way I describe it, it's more like a religious orientation. Okay? You get certain people that believe in this, that this is the future, that hardware and software need to be disaggregated, hardware needs to be open standards-based, interoperable amongst different software loads. Those people resonate with our story and gravitate to what we're doing. But if we don't have all the features and functionality and capabilities that we need, none of that matters. We don't even get in the door, okay? Once we're in the door and we're feature complete and we're fighting against competition and you get down to the last brush strokes of a win, we'll win on price because of our business model.